for mankind to live happily. Life routine which are full of ambitiousness, violence and selfishness should be erased by men of goodwill. This is one of moving story about friendship and comradeship. It is a story about men who did not need to embrace one another and even shake their hands, but esteem and admire each other for having shared the same ideal, their contribution to the struggle for interests of the oppressed and exploited people throughout the world. So this could also be a dialogue among friends. Hi, Alejandro. Reading my diaries, memory of our student life have all come back to me. I'm very happy because there are always friends around me. And as I said earlier, I began studying lives of Uncle Ho and Fidel Castro. I've always thought of combining our studies. That's exciting. Let's work in a Q&A format in which you pose questions to me and vice versa. I've been to Biran, a little hamlet in Holguin, a northeastern province of Cuba. When talking about Fidel Castro rules, it reminds us of Don Angel Castro Arquis, a man who was as good as a computer in calculation. This land gave him initial wealth, a family, and his wife, Madame Lina Ruz Gonzalez, a Cuban woman born in Pinar del Rio. Extraordinary marriage and love between Angel and Lina gave birth to 7 shining flowers, specifically 3 boys and 4 girls. On this bed, Fidel Castro was born at 2 a.m. on August the 13th, 1926. These are some pictures of the family. The mother, Madame Lina, was 3 months pregnant of Fidel Castro. The house is being kept intact. These pictures featured part of the family and their life. This is Madame Lina. Talking about her, we think of a strong lady who often brought along a 38mm Colt. Right in here, she did not believe on rumors that Fidel and Raul had been killed when they and their comrades landed on Cuba from the yacht Granma. This is Don Angel Castro's funeral, and he was buried in Cemetery Marcane near his farm. This is the guest room of the family. And this is the room for Fidel and Raul, his youngest brother. The house has a very wide surrounding corridor, a medicine room, a place for Don Angel and Madame Lina's horse saddles. There are 10 large chairs in the dining room, and this is the couple's room. Fidel stayed in this cradle for 3 months. This little bell marks the place where little Fidel sat learning when he was 4.5 years old. From this school, Fidel was the unique youth entering university. And this place formed personality for little Fidel. Ho Chi Minh was born on May the 19th, 1890, in San Village, Kim Liên Commune, Nam Dan District, Nghệ An Province, which is about 300 kilometers south of Hanoi. On that same day in 1895, Cuban national hero Jose Marti fell down in a battle. Santiago de Cuba is the provincial capital of an eastern Cuban province where indomitable fighter Fidel Castro had his first school lessons. This school was founded in 1908, and one of the important events of our seminary La Salle was the presence of Fidel Castro and his brother and sister since 1936. Fidel was here till his third grade, during which he excellently completed his exams and was directly transferred to the fifth grade. Fidel always maintained very good relations with his classmates, participated in sports, extracurricular activities. The school conducted field trips to Farm Arrente twice a week for students to enjoy themselves. The reason why Fidel left the school related to a fight between him and a classmate of his during a field trip. In returning to the school, Priest Bernardo, guarantor of the student beaten by Fidel, gave 2 slaps at Fidel's face. Fidel finally decided to respond to him with his blow and never came back to the school when the school year ended. Nguyễn Sinh Cung was Ho Chi Minh's real name, who was born in the central coast of Vietnam, where countless peasants' uprisings against cruel colonialism and feudalism took place. When the new school year started, Don Angel and his wife sent Fidel to school de Dolores. The school was exclusively for white children from rich urban families. Fidel was very enthusiastic in entering the new school. He had classes off during the first semester of the 7th grade due to an appendix operation. During this time, Don Angel decided not to let Fidel be an intern student, but staying with one of the family friends in Vista Alegre quarter. Fidel missed a semester and got poor marks. He told the school that he had lost his school report and asked for an unused one. He then filled the report with mark 10 for every subject in order to please his parents and those who supported him. At the warden presenting meeting of that year, Fidel's name was not announced for the award. His parents asked why his name was not mentioned. He cleverly replied, "I had to meet a semester for the appendix operation, and though I got highest marks in the second one, I've been disadvantaged compared to those who attended classes of the entire school year." Jose Marti, born in Cuba in 1853, was a journalist, a writer, and founder of the Revolutionary Party of Cuba. He led the struggle against Spanish colonialists for independence and freedom of Cuba. Golden Age Children magazine, founded and run by him, demonstrated his admiration and affection for the Annamese people. The country suffered from colonialist rule. Nam Dan Nghệ An province had a glorious, and his family was also a patriotic one. All elements such as country, homeland and family tempered Nguyễn Tất Thành personality and especially designed to free his country from colonialism and feudalism. In late 19th century, many uprisings broke out, but all of them ended up in failure. Revolution went into an impasse then. It was really a crisis of strategic line. In 1895, Mr. Nguyễn Sinh Sắc from Kim Liên, Nghệ An, came here to attend a pre-court examination, and later on, he brought his wife and two sons along to earn a living here. Initially, he stayed at his friend's for a while and then rented a house which is now numbered 112 in Mai Thúc Loan Street. Uncle Ho stayed here for about 6 years. Parental education and the culture of Huế profoundly influenced over his childhood. Thus, his patriotism gradually grew, and also at that time Mr. Sak attended the National College, and what he discussed with his colleagues regarding the RAN situation and patriotism was one of strongest impacts on President Ho Chi Minh's personality and patriotism. This residence is where Madame Hoàng Thị Loan worked hard for her husband and children further their studies, who later became devoted men of the nation, fatherland and people. There was a banner which read, "Freedom, Equality and Humanist," hung in the classroom. When being asked by Nguyễn Sinh Cung about meaning of those terms, the teacher gave a very nice explanation. But in reality, in seeing what the French did in Huế, Nguyễn Sinh Cung saw no such freedom, equality and humanist. Thus he was determined in learning to master the French language so that he could see how the French implemented the above in their homeland.
4 năm 1908.
In April 1908, an anti-tax struggle broke out in the Central Coast from Quảng Nam to Huế. Nguyễn Tất Thành helped local residents in interpreting what they wanted to tell the French resident superior. And that anti-tax event was the beginning of a series of street struggles in South Vietnam in the 20th century.
Hai người là đấu tranh ở đô thị miền Nam.
Graduating from a high school taught by Christian priests, nowadays Jose Marti Military Academy, following are exact remarks in Fidel Castro's school report. Fidel is always excellent in social sciences. He is granted with a very special inborn talent. It is doubtless that there will be many glorious pages in the book of his life. It is a rough diamond which needs polishing only.
Caló muy hondo ese religioso en quien sería Fidel. Ya le ve características muy propias de su personalidad.
The school made very accurate assessment on Fidel. We have seen outstanding quality of a man of will, strength, determination and potential energy. However, the seminary failed to provide him adequate education. Only when being at university, it was able to see all outstanding political qualities in him. His knowledge, sensitiveness for socio-economic situation, and revolutionary spirit of men like Jose Marti, fighters of the French Revolution and Paris Commune, had been tempered. In 1945, while learning law at University of Havana, Fidel actively participated in a progressive student movement struggling against corrupted governments which were all henchmen of the US that consecutively ruled the Republic. Numerous well-known locations have been retained in hearts and minds of mankind. University of Havana is one such place, not only because of its origin but its student as well. Here I'd like to refer to one of its excellent students, lawyer Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruz. From 1945, Fidel was present at Magna, the most important lecture hall of University of Havana. Fidel opposed policies of the then government. He acted as a leading banner of students' movements against tyrannical regimes. People saw in him characteristics, intelligence, straightforwardness, truthfulness, and learning seriousness. He not only had an excellent memory, but a seemingly gifted talent for judicial sciences. He often argued and quickly replied to questions raised by his classmates. He took part in leadership of the students' movement against tyrannical regimes in universities. He was always one of excellent students of University of Havana. Fidel always greeted his teacher in the morning and afternoon. He was seen all the time in the lecture hall, attentively listened to his classmates' arguments. He and the student requested for being armed to fight against tyrannical regime with the slogan, "Let's unite. They betray the people. Let's gather into an army and fight." For Fidel, fatherland was above all. He served as an example for all other students and professors as well. Such was a Fidel I will remember, who never praised himself and kept up complacency.
Académica, ideológica, revolucionaria y políticamente a los estudiantes. Es el Fidel de una generación en que se leía a José Ingenieros, el hombre mediocre, las fuerzas morales, se leía los motivos de proteo, se leían también aquellas hermosísimas poesías.
Fidel read and knew numerous well-known works by José Ingenieros, Proteo, works by poets César Vallejo, Maria Tegui, and by Cuban authors such as José María Heredia or Gabriel de la Concepción Valdés.
Esas magníficas y grandiosas potencias que hoy lo elevan. Es el Fidel que también leía poesía a los grandes poetas cubanos.
He always called on others to focus on learning and mutual respect, just like nowadays students being requested to have scientific knowledge, revolutionary ideology and political quality. Fidel's life is a vivid album. It is the path to new horizons. Alejandro, I've just finished reading your summary on Comrade Fidel Castro's background. We are doing quite well, and I've visited Ho Chi Minh Museum recently. I'm attaching details and photos. What I think would be useful for you to establish a connection and similarity to clarify our opinions on friendship between the two great leaders who were very close to each other in terms of ideology, in spite of being distant geographically. March the 10th, 1952 was another dark day in the life of the Cubans. It was the second time in history that Fulgencio Batista resorted to violence to take power with support from corrupted factions and control the armed forces.
Và năm 1911 chính là Nguyễn Tất Thành đã ra đi để tìm đường cứu nước ở cảng Nhà Rồng.
In June 1911, from Nhà Rồng Wharf, Nguyễn Tất Thành departed, seeking for a way to save his nation. Nguyễn Ái Quốc had to work hard so as to further his journey. He went to numerous countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And he saw that all colonized nations under colonial and feudal oppression or tyrannical rule suffered the same misery. Nguyễn Ái Quốc also traveled to develop capitalist nations, the homes to the Declaration of Independence like the USA, the Declaration of Human Rights, Democracy and Humanism of 1789 like France and Britain among others. However, Nguyễn Ái Quốc only saw two things in those places. First, there was no freedom, equality, and humanism at all, as described by capitalist revolutionaries in the beginning of the 18th century. He realized that there were only two types of human beings in all those societies. The type of abundant and well-off people, and the other being the miserable oppressed one. Second-class ideology and class knowledge were built up in Nguyễn Ái Quốc after reading Lenin's papers on colonial nations in 1920. He understood that this was the very path that could free his nations, and it was an obligatory path, the path to communism. And at the 18th Congress of Tours in France, it was Ho Chi Minh or Nguyễn Ái Quốc, one of the very first founder of the French Communist Party. From a patriot, Nguyễn Ái Quốc became a communist. Fidel and a group of revolutionary youths attacked Moncada barracks in Santiago de Cuba with an aim to seize weapons and advance up to the mountains. This place was the starting point for the attack at Moncada barracks 56 years ago. At dawn of July the 26th, 1953, some 129 youths gathered here with their commander-in-chief Fidel Castro. Fidel told them about the objective of that armed action, and then they departed at 4:45 a.m. in 16 vehicles advancing towards Santiago de Cuba to attack Moncada barracks. This is the list of the 129 young men with Fidel on that day. Those marked red were killed by Batista's troops, totaling to 44. Those marked black were 6, falling down in the attack. Two unit women participating in the Moncada attack were Melba Hernandez and Heider Santa Maria. We know that Heider Santa Maria's younger brother Abel was captured, tortured, and had his both eyes removed and finally executed. The enemy then handed those 2 eyes to Heider to terrify her. The weapons used by the fighters in the attack were one semi-automatic machine gun M1 and sports and Remington hunting guns. The fighter hid their weapons in this water well. Then they placed this barrel on and filled it with soil and planted a tree in it. These are uniforms put on the fighters who had been killed by Batista's troops after their being captured. The enemy said that the fighter had been killed during the shooting, but in fact these uniforms were stained with blood without bullet holes. This is the speech made by Fidel to the 129 Moncada fighters at dawn of July the 26th. He said, "Comrade, we may succeed or fail, but let's remember that our movement will win. And if we win today, Jose Marti's aspiration would come true much faster. If it happened in the contrary, what we are going to do will become an example for the Cuban people to uphold our banner and advance forward. The people support us. Here in Oriente, we shout out loud, 'Liberty or death.'" The attack failed and only 34 youths came back to this place with Fidel. In the morning of August the 1st, 1953, in a Nam located about 5 kilometers from here, Fidel was captured with 2 other fighters. Who captured them? It was military officer Pedro Saria Tartabul. But the officer saved Fidel's life 4 times within that day. Primarily, the soldiers wanted to assassinate the 3 captured men. But Pedro Saria Tartabul stopped them and said, "It's impossible to kill ideas. People should fight." It was the first time that he saved Fidel's life. Later on, Fidel told him on the way, "I am Fidel Castro." Pedro gestured to Fidel to keep quiet and said, "Don't tell that to anyone. They will kill you at once." That was the second time Fidel was saved. The third time occurred when taking a break, the troop happened to meet Major Perez Chomon, an officer of the High Command. He intended to take Fidel and the 2 fighters for a secret execution. However, Officer Pedro resolutely said that his task was to take the prisoners to Santiago de Cuba. The fourth time Pedro saved Fidel's life was a decision to take him to the military command of the city center instead of the Moncada barracks. On the way to the city, somebody took photos of Fidel and told the public that Fidel was still alive. Thus, the Batista regime did not execute Fidel secretly. On October the 16th, 1953, Fidel was sentenced to 15 years of imprisonment at a mobile court. And at this very place, being his own lawyer, Fidel defended himself by his well-known work, History Will Absorb Me. Political upheaval and mass struggle forced Batista to free Fidel and his comrades on May the 15th, 1955. He and his comrade left Cuba for Mexico, where he met Commander Che Guevara.
La prisión acaba. La prisión de hierro. Pero continúa. La prisión del sueño. En busca de un sueño se acerca este joven. En busca de un sueño van generaciones. En busca de un sueño hermoso y rebelde. En busca de un sueño que gana y que pierde. En busca de un sueño de bella locura. En busca de un sueño que mata y que cura. En busca de un sueño desatan ciclones. En busca de un sueño cuantas ilusiones.
Trong cái hoạt động cách mạng của Bác Hồ thì Bác Hồ thường là hay viết báo, mà viết báo đầu tiên là Bác Hồ.
Uncle Ho often wrote for the press. He began writing newspaper articles in foreign languages and then in the Vietnamese language. Why so? Because for him, being a journalist meant doing politics. Lifetime topic of Uncle Ho's article was only one, being fighting imperialism and feudalism to bring freedom for the people, and his revolutionary past articles serve as teaching lessons for his progressive use and for party consolidation. We've always considered Uncle Ho a master of the Vietnamese revolutionary journalism. In his revolutionary life, he was twice incarcerated by imperialisms from 1931 to 1933 in British prison in Hong Kong. And from 1942 to 1943 in Chiang Kai-shek's prison in Guangxi. Ho Chi Minh always showed quality of a genuine communist and a genuine patriot. We all know the work written by Ho Chi Minh during his 1 year and 4 months being jailed in Guangxi. 134 poems in his prison diaries were written in hand characters with extremely profound knowledge of the language. Mr. Guo Mo Ruo, president of Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, evaluated President Ho Chi Minh's prison diaries as containing many excellent poems, including some extremely excellent ones.
Trong đó có một số bài đặc biệt hay, và nếu đặt cạnh thơ được, thơ tống.
For example, God with Pig. A pig and a God bearing me, then me led upon a change. I've not the standing of these swine. Having lost my hold on freedom, the thing I've lost seem well nigh legion, but none weighs on me more than this. They watch my every word and deed. They treat me like a beast of burden. This is landmark number 108, where Uncle Ho set first steps in returning to his fatherland after 30 years. This is Cốc Grotto, where Uncle Ho stayed and worked from February the 8th to end of March 1941. His vestiges are being kept in it. This is a replicate of his bed, and this is a statue of Karl Marx created by him.
Ở đây là cái khu di tích Tổng Ngân, là nơi mà ở những năm 40 Bác Hồ đã từng đến đây hoạt động cách mạng. Khu này là rất thuận lợi cho.
And this is Tông Ngân relic site, where Uncle Ho stayed for revolutionary activities in the 40s. In those years of the 40s of the last century, our family lived here. Mr. Võ Nguyên Giáp used to stay and work for months in this house. Uncle Ho came here twice. Later on, he went to a secret grotto to hold training courses for revolutionary officers. This is Kéo Quảng Grotto, where Uncle Ho conducted training courses for key officers of Cao Bằng and Lạng Sơn provinces in 1942. He named this grotto Lenin Cave, and this is where he conducted the training courses while he stayed in another cave atop the mountain over there. My father was a participant of a training course. My family ensured food supply for Uncle Ho and key officers of the province who attended those secret courses for quite a long time. Uncle Ho came back to the country in 1941, and the 8th plenary of the party's Central Committee in Bắc Bó were chaired by Ho Chi Minh. In December 1944, Uncle Ho founded the first ever liberation propaganda army under command of Comrade Võ Nguyên Giáp. And its main task at that time was mobilizing the entire nation to stand up for uprising. In July 1945, Uncle Ho said the following to Mr. Võ Nguyên Giáp in Tân Trào. It's very favorable now. In spite of whatever sacrifices that we may suffer, even to burn Trường Sơn mountain range down, we must be determined in gaining national independence. Two most important qualities of his that made him the national leader are unshaken faith in his ideal and political sharpness in seizing opportunities to carry out the uprising.
để mà có thể tiến hành cuộc khởi nghĩa.
On September the 2nd, 1945, President Ho Chi Minh proclaimed an independent and free Vietnam at historic Ba Dinh Square. He became the first ever president of an independent Vietnam.
Hỡi đồng bào cả nước,
Dear compatriots, all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This immortal statement was made in the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America in 1776. In a broader sense, this means all the peoples on the earth are equal from birth. All the peoples have a right to live, to be happy and free. The French colonialists did not accept their defeat. The war recurred. He wanted to gain détente with France to avoid war, but the French nurtured their wicked ambition of re-establishing their colonial system. Thus we had to launch the People's Resistance War on December the 19th, 1946. Uncle Ho showed firm determination for a protracted war of resistance.
Toàn bộ các cơ quan đảng nhà nước là cũng theo Bác Hồ đi lên để là nơi chỉ huy chống phá, cho nên đi theo Bác là có 8 người.
8 men of different ages and ethnicities followed him. So he named them after a resistance war motto: Trường, kỳ, kháng, chiến, nhất định, thành công, which literally mean protracted resistance war will certainly lead to a final victory.
Và kháng chiến thắng lợi. Trong kháng chiến đấy, đầu tiên là đi ô tô, sau thì là đi bộ. Và có thời gian là cưỡi ngựa.
In the resistance war, initially he used vehicle. Later on he took walks and sometimes rode horse. We estimated that he might have walked a total of over 2,000 kilometers around the ATK, or safety zone, during those 8 years. Uncle Ho lived as a commoner, but we always ensured that he was in good physical condition. He was not very well initially. However, with such physical training, his health was improved.
Trong kháng chiến, trong sinh hoạt đó, Bác Hồ
He had a volleyball ground made next to his office and he played volleyball. He taught us that we had to train ourselves physically to have a good health to serve the protracted resistance war.
chiến dịch lớn như là giải phóng biên giới là Bác Hồ.
Uncle Ho went to Cao Bằng from Việt Bắc or Tuyên Quang to command the border liberation campaign in the end of 1950.
Biên giới năm 1950, cuối năm 1950.
Particularly for Điện Biên Phủ campaign, Uncle Ho and the High Command in Tuyên Quang successfully directed the campaign, gaining a world-shaking victory. With consecutive imbalanced battles atop mountains east of Sierra Maestra, Fidel gained numerous victories. He became commander-in-chief of the insurrection army with support and hope pinned by the people. U.S. imperialism has long seen Cuba with an unfriendly eye. It is similar to what happened in Vietnam, primarily under the French colonial rule and later on that of U.S. imperialism. President Johnson, do answer the following question openly to the American and world peoples. Who sabotages the Geneva Agreement, which ensures sovereignty, independence, unification, and territorial integrity for Vietnam? Is the Vietnamese army invading the USA and killing the American people, or the US government sending US soldiers to invade Vietnam and kill the Vietnamese people? The war may drag on for 5, 10, and 20 years or longer. Hanoi, Haiphong, and a number of other cities and enterprises may be leveled down, but the Vietnamese people will never be intimidated. The imperialists won't let anyone live in peace. That's right, they are all the same. Nothing can stop them. Though Uncle Ho and Fidel Castro never met, and we don't need to be classmates to have the same thought, to always think of and share with one another. Thank you, friend. I'm proud of having the name Alejandro, which was Fidel's alias during wartime. From that victory, Uncle Ho returned to Hanoi in the end of 1954. We wrote press news and read newspapers and news bulletins for him. He paid a special attention to news about Cuba and Comrade Fidel Castro. When having free time, he gave us further explanation on the Cuban Revolution. He saw his utmost confidence in Comrade Fidel Castro. The only man that I could not see nor converse with is Ho Chi Minh. It's really sad. I visited his residence by a little lake. Ho Chi Minh is affectionately called by everyone as Uncle Ho. Is a wonderful man of responsibility and dignity. He is a banner uniting people who struggle for socialism. In 1973, Fidel visited Vietnam. He was very happy and moved when calling at Uncle Ho's residence and office. Perhaps Fidel recalled the gifts that Uncle Ho had presented him in March 1969. It was a little ashtray made of fragments of a U.S. aircraft. The ashtray was crafted by liberation fighter in eastern Nam Bo. Uncle Ho shared the joy of victory with his comrade. Fidel did not mistake when recalling how he admired Uncle Ho's saying, "Nothing is more valuable than independence and freedom." Such was a coincidence when Fidel Castro said the following at the funeral for victims of the attack at the ship named Cubre at Havana Harbor in 1961. I'll never forget his saying, "We have no other choice but revolutionary struggle. It is the struggle for freedom or death. Freedom is now a greater aspiration." It stands for the fatherland and our old choice, fatherland or death. That's right. It is because of understanding. Fidel Castro always supported and wished for a unified Vietnam. It seemed that he also deeply understood Uncle Ho's sadness in missing to see a liberated South before his long departure. A totally unified nation was his greatest design. Fidel Castro strived for fulfilling Ho Chi Minh's wish. He was determined in visiting the South to meet people and liberation fighters. He gave them much encouragement for the general offensive to totally liberate the South and unify the country in the historical Ho Chi Minh campaign in April 1975. Long live the glorious, heroic people of Vietnam. For Vietnam, we are ready to give our own blood. How to end a story which seemed to be never ending about a man who was able to point out his very fate? When being committed to the struggle for freedom, Guinean men often remember the followings. A death merited and embraced by the fatherland is a death that gives way to a new life.